Welcome to Series 2 of the Challenge to Change podcast, which is now part of the Cheshire East family. Whether you're listening or watching, welcome to the podcast. If you're new here, this podcast is all about the little changes we can all make to have a positive effect upon planet Earth. Please do take the time to like, subscribe, comment and share. Hi there, and welcome to this episode of the Challenge to Change podcast. So this episode is all about something called greenwashing. It may be a term that you're familiar with, it may be something that you've heard about. And in fact, if you do a search online, you'll see that it is a phrase that is trending at the moment, environmentally speaking. So what actually is it? And is it something that as individuals, as consumers, we need to be concerned about? Well, the answer to that question, it is actually worthwhile having an awareness of greenwashing and considering what we can do as consumers to try to avoid this kind of issue. So first of all, I'm going to explain what greenwashing actually is. So it is basically where a company will make a claim, an ethical claim, and that claim turns out to be inaccurate or not wholly accurate. So it's basically making ethical statements, presenting, if you like, an ethical vibe on a company website or even in a physical store or something like that. But if you sort of look behind the scenes, if you do some research, it transpires that those claims are not accurate. So, of course, if you're someone who wants to make purchases with an ethical aim in mind, it stands to reason that we would want to avoid any false claims. So what can we do? How can we ensure that where we're buying the things that, where we're making those purchases, how can we ensure that we avoid greenwashing? Well, the first thing that we can do is basically find out about the company in question. If it's not a company that you are very familiar with, that you know and you know well, so I'm thinking here more like an independent that you have a relationship with, if you like, as a consumer. So if you don't know the organisation, then it's worthwhile looking at the company website and doing a little bit of research there. Another thing that you can do is to check if the ethical claims have been confirmed by some kind of regulatory body. So I'm going to give you a list of a few organisations. So we have Fairtrade International, Global Organic Textile Standard, Rainforest Alliance, Forest Stewardship Council, or FSC for short, and also Leaping Bunny as well. So there will be others, so it is worthwhile doing your own research. Another thing that we can do, again, as consumers, is have a look on the Ethical Consumers website. It's worth considering as well that lots of companies do, of course, have actual green credentials. There are companies that genuinely do care about planet Earth. Just because greenwashing exists doesn't mean that all the companies that we think of as being green, as we think of as being ethical, are not ethical. Whilst it may be important as a consumer to look into a company that we're buying something from, there's no reason to presume that all companies are not as ethical as they claim. So it's just a case of being mindful and checking. Another thing to bear in mind is, why would a company make an ethical claim with no evidence behind it? Well, the simple answer to that is that companies, of course, are there to make money. So green credentials, or the appearance of green credentials, might not only look good for planet Earth, but also it does give a sense that a company cares. And if a company cares, then as individuals, we might be more inclined to make a purchase from them, because it gives the sense of trust, it gives the sense of caring, so that might make us be more inclined to part with our hard-earned cash. But of course, we don't want to actually do that unless we are sure that the company in question is genuinely as ethical as they claim to be. So alongside the things that I've already mentioned, so looking at regulatory bodies, you can also look at the fine print on a company website. So look in more detail about the claims that they make. Ethical claims will be backed up with some kind of research, some kind of data. So look out for that. Another thing to bear in mind, so if a company states that they use recycled packaging, but they are a producer of fast fashion, then really in that sense, one action is kind of cancelling out the other. Now, in this case, it's really up to the individual to make their own decisions there. It may well be that as a consumer, perhaps you're not that concerned about fast fashion, but you do want to buy something where the packaging is recycled. So it's very much up to the individual. However, it's definitely possible to say that if an organisation does one ethical thing, but it's cancelled out by another unethical thing, then it might not be the company that we want to make a purchase from. Another thing to look out for is branding. Now, of course, all companies use branding and some obviously use it a lot better than others. So in some cases, the branding may give the impression of an ethical organisation or environmentally friendly organisation. So branding can sometimes give the impression of ethics, but it's only evidence that demonstrates ethics. Of course, it's wonderful to see lots of positive environmental images on a company website, but it's only hard data that actually demonstrates what those ethics are. Basically, don't allow yourself to be swept along with beautiful images and actually look at the fine print, look at the data, and look to see if there is a regulatory body that is approving, confirming what these companies are saying. Another thing that we can do, and it's really, really easy, is just literally do a quick search online to find out more about the brand in question, the company in question. So, in summary, if you want to avoid greenwashing, it's definitely worthwhile taking your time before making a purchase. And perhaps as well, as consumers, we might want to do that anyway. Anytime we make a purchase, we're parting with our hard-earned cash. So if we do care about ethical credentials, it's certainly worthwhile choosing a company that genuinely does have ethical credentials. Not only will this protect your pocket or your purse, it also ensures that companies that genuinely do have ethical credentials are able to prosper, are able to do well, and are able to keep making a difference by actually adhering to those ethical credentials. And not only that, it also reduces the potential for greenwashing going forward, because those companies that are not actually operating within an ethical framework, but are only stating that they are, will be less able to continue to do that. Thank you so much for watching this super short episode of the Challenge to Change podcast. I hope you found some of the information that I've shared useful. As ever, please do take the time to like, subscribe, and share. Thanks so much for being here, and I will return for another podcast episode really soon. Bye for now.